Oh man. Oh man. So what has my coach and y'all's pastor for life? What has he been up to? Really? I understand he had the one where he's talking about taking an old mobile home and creating a masterpiece. Piece of a masterpiece of no, no, don't say it. Okay. I understand he's been focused on doing some trim work on the interior of the mobile home. Is that right? Considering that there should be a certain urgency with completing the exterior siding, the exterior OSB, the house wrap, the windows, etc. Why in the world would he shift to working on the interior trim work? Considering that the interior trim work can be done anytime. It can be done before or after Disney World, yes? The interior trim work could be done in the fall, yes? Interior trim work could even be done in the winter. Why in the world would he drag his feet on the exterior and decide, oh, no, I'm going inside. I'm going inside. I'm going to dilly-dally on the inside working on some trim work. Why would he do that? It's the ADHD. Is that right? Is it the adult ADHD that has him unable? It gives him the inability to focus on one task to completion. Is that right? And so rather than completing the exterior, at least putting on the wrap, the weather wrap, in its entirety, he shifted gears and he decided to do the trim work on the interior. Is that right? Is that right? What else has he been working on? Upgrade. Is that right? So he clickbaited the viewers with his thumbnail and he put an X through the raggedy old excursion. And what did he do? Did he put a smiley face next to the shiny new truck? So he clickbaited them and clickbaited the viewers, and I guess he was feeling a little bit of guilt. And during the actual trailer, he said, no, guys, I know I clickbaited you guys. Yes, I've done it many times before. Okay, the only difference this time is I'm actually going to acknowledge, I'm going to fess up to my clickbaiting this time. And no, we're not talking about an upgrade for my raggedy excursion. Yes, considering that Megan hasn't had her own vehicle in years, it would be a little bit selfish. Yes, he's always more than a little selfish. Okay. It would be selfish. Even to my most heavy of followers, it would appear selfish if I went ahead and upgraded this excursion while Megan still is dependent upon me for basic transportation. Yes. But he clickbaited folks and at least he admitted that, okay, we're not talking about an upgrade for the raggedy truck. We're talking about an upgrade for the roofing, I guess, talking about upgrade for the roofing on the mobile home. Now, we already knew that he was supposedly going to upgrade the roofing. And I guess he brought in contractors. Now, we know what that means. Yes, we know what that means. Excuse me. We know what that means. When he brings in those contractors, we know what that means. Yes. That means he's going to ask for full blueprints. He's going to want full blueprints, detailed quotes. He's going to want every nut and bolt itemized. Yes. Every operation, every task. Described to him in full detail. Yes. Okay. And he's going to ask for copies of that blueprint. Yes. And so we already know. we already know what that entails. Yes. And so I guess he brought in contractors to give him the quote. Okay. The infamous quote, the infamous blueprint. And he reminded you viewers that he wants the roof for the mobile home to match the roof for the poultry pen. And I'm like, okay, is it not enough that he's going to put shed siding up on his house and such that it matches the siding on his shed that he calls Ernest? Was that not enough? Now he's saying, well, I want my house to look I want it to be identical to my chicken coop, identical to my dog kennels, my supposed APP, and I want it to be identical to that shed shack that we call Ernest. Identical. Yes, I want it to have the same roof and all. Even though no one will ever see it, no one will ever care outside of the YouTube, the supposed YouTube family that he claims to have. The only family that he acknowledges is his YouTube, his supposed YouTube family, yes? So you guys are the only ones that are going to see the fact that the shed matches the poultry pen, matches the mobile home. And you guys can applaud him. Yes, go into the comments and applaud him for that. Yes. But I understand that he's going to bring in a contractor for that. All right. So has he been up to anything? Anything else? Well, okay. All right. Well, today I'm going to give my reaction. Well, I was planning on giving my reaction to the recent video where he talks about turning up the grind or returning to the grind or what have you. But then I went back and I actually looked at the trailer where they were talking about Megan going from, well, he put an X through college professor, right? And so some woeful viewers might believe that she was a college professor at some point. Okay, now bear in mind, those of us that are familiar with academia, we know that you have to be an associate professor or an adjunct professor long before becoming a true professor. Yes. Okay, similar to becoming a tenured teacher. You can be a teacher without having tenure, yes? Okay, but you don't just walk in and become a professor. It doesn't work like that, yes? But he put an X through it. On the thumbnail, he put an X through college professor. Okay, he was implying that she left being a professor, which she never was. Okay, teaching a couple of classes does not make you a professor. All right, but he put an X to it, and we longtime viewers, we know that means that she was never a college professor, and now she's supposedly a homeschool teacher. Yes, even though Megan acknowledged, she admitted to the world, she admitted to Tim's YouTube family, to Tim's IG YouTube family. He admitted to all of you, all of his YouTube cousins, his YouTube nephews, YouTube aunts, uncles, yes, YouTube mamas, YouTube grandmamas, and I'm not talking about Lily. Okay, I'm not talking about Lily. I'm not talking about Travion and his other aunts and uncles. I'm talking about his YouTube family, his true family that he acknowledges. Okay. But now, so they're talking about Megan being a homeschool teacher. Megan already admitted to all of us, to the world, that she has no clue on what she is doing. Yes, and so why in the world would Tim focus even more on this homeschooling fiasco, this homeschooling failure, debacle? Yes, miseducation. Why would he focus on that? Well, of course, because my coach is my coach, and that's what he does. Yes, he focuses on other folks' weaknesses. He focuses on other folks' deficiencies. Yes, okay. Remember the time he was talking about being self-deprecating, and then he focused the entire video on Megan's weaknesses. Self-deprecating means, okay, you're gonna highlight your own weaknesses. Okay, but he said I'm be self-deprecating, and by that I mean I'm gonna focus the spotlight on Megan. Okay, and her shortcomings. Okay, amongst my my overabundance, my own overabundance of weaknesses, deficiencies, and deceptions. But I have to go and take a look at that that homeschooling video, that recent homeschool video, and so I'm going to give my reaction to that video here. All right, so it appears as though Megan is performing the weekly science experiment with the boys. Now, if they were in a public school, they would have science at least 3 times a week. At least 3 times a week, yes? Okay, and most of science is about discovery and experimentation, yes? And so if they were in a public school or even a private school or even a charter school, yes? At least 3 science exposures / experiments per week, yes? And so how in the world would we feel that it is sufficient for those boys to only have just a single one, just one per week, yes? But of course, early on, we noticed that Megan is the only one making observations. And her observations are overriding whatever the boys have to offer, yes? Now, bear in mind, these boys are 11, 9, and 6? 11, 9, and 6? 11, 8, and 6, okay? And so they should be at different aptitude levels. They should be at different levels of observation, yes? Okay, and so what little Noah observes should be different than what Titus sees, and certainly different than what Junior gathers from the experiment. But Megan just barges right in, yes? And she gives her own adult observations on an experiment that was supposedly structured for children. Okay, students that are youthful, yes. But we'll pay attention, Megan. We'll have to see how the experiment goes, see how it carries out, Megan. We don't want to judge you too early on this, Megan. Okay, but we were hoping this was going to be an experiment for the boys and not for you, and certainly not for Tim, and not for Tim's IAG family. Okay, but show us more, Megan.
Okay, so let's look at it and see how well it's preserved.
No, it was a whole different apple. It's like rotten.
Yeah. Let's feel it. Is it soft or hard?
Oh, yeah.
It's squishy.
Yep. It didn't make it.
Yeah.
All right, and Megan introduces the control. So they're doing an experiment with apples, and the first one was in the baking soda. Megan introduces the control apple, yes? Now, considering that these boys are readers, okay, they're learning to read, okay, they're progressing toward their literacy, yes? Why did not one of the boys read the label on the vial and read it out and say, well, that says control, so that's the control, yes? And also, why did the boys not know in advance that was the control apple? Okay, who's actually doing this experiment? Okay, but now we see, of course, when the boys when they are allowed to give some input or some expression, I guess little Noah says that it feels intense. Well, I mean, that is a vocabulary word, yeah, so it's good to hear him articulate, okay, but he says it feels intense, and then Megan jumps in and says, well, no, it feels a certain way. I guess Junior says, well, it looks like it's been preserved and it feels like it's been preserved. And I guess little Titus tosses in something. But Megan, clearly, she's the one that's picking up the samples. Why are the boys not reaching for the samples? Okay, have they been instructed to leave it to Megan? Leave it to their teacher to do all of the work? Of course, we know that the greatest learning happens when the students are working, when the students are discovering, observing, and expressing themselves. That's when the greatest learning occurs, Megan, yes? Okay? And so, Megan, you already acknowledged that you've been failing for a couple of years on this homeschool education, Megan. Okay, but if you do nothing else, leave it to the boys to express what they've learned. Okay, they can tell you whether they're picking up on the bitty crumbs that you're offering them, yes? They can tell you how well they're absorbing the miseducation that's being afforded to them by you and my coach, Tim, yes? Okay, both of you guys are complicit in this, okay? All right, Tim, you don't get off scot-free because Megan is the assigned teacher, okay? Every parent in the household / both parents in the household are responsible for the education of those boys, okay? But we see Megan grabbing at apples and describing what she sees, yes? Okay, we do hear some of the boys trying to mimic what she's offering, yes? Okay, but we got to see more, Megan. We got to see more.
And it doesn't look to be preserved real well. We'll weigh it and see if it's still 3 grams.
It feels like a toy.
Well, let's compare it. This is our control apple. Okay? So let's compare it to the control apple.
Well, you put nothing in it.
We didn't put anything in there.
And it's still intact.
Whoa, I'm shocked.
It feels like a regular apple.
I know.
It definitely preserved.
It seems like, this looks like it made it, right.
Now, for a brief moment, Tim, the cameraman, he takes the camera off of the experiment, which I thought this was all about. And he focuses in on the date that is written on the board. Yes? Okay. Now, far be it for me to accuse my coach of putting a false date on the board. All right. Yes. Okay. We would never expect my coach to actually go up there and put a false date. Yes. Put a date on the board that reflects something more appropriate for when this trailer would actually air, or when it would actually be posted to the YouTube. Yes. Okay. My coach, he would never do that, would he? He would. He definitely would. Okay. All right. So now if some of you heavy / ready Tim Riders want to believe the date, then it would imply that at least this particular trailer is somewhat up to date. Yes. It's only a couple of days off, I guess. So this one would be up to date. And so it will reflect more than what they call real time. This would actually would reflect actual. This one would reflect actual time. Yes. Okay. But why did he focus? Why did he feel the need to focus on that date? Yes. Has he been hearing? Has he been getting hammered in the reaction spaces about his content being 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks behind? Has he been getting hammered on these trailers even being 2 to 3 weeks behind? Yes. Has he been? Now, we know that he was a week behind previously. Yes. Okay. And so now he's going to try to imply that he's all caught up. Okay. We'll just have to wait and see now. Now, bear in mind that my coach is a master editor. Yes. And so even if he did not go in and falsify the date on the board, okay, bear in mind when he picks up his dialogue, it's going to be after he leaves the trailer. And so, okay, do not underestimate my coach's ability to piece some current material, yes, with what he calls real-time material, which is only a couple weeks behind, and piece that together with some content that's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks behind. But we do see the date up there, and it is a current date. Okay, so that should excite some of you woeful Tim worshipers. That should excite you guys. Okay, now, of course, we do notice that the date is written nice and large. Okay, even though there's plenty of chalk scattering, there's plenty of verbiage on the board relative. I guess there's something about black abolitionists, and so I guess that would imply that they are teaching some black history. Well, that's crammed in between some commentary about these apples. Of course, he's got the running tally on the salary that the boys are earning that they'll never be able to spend. I guess we see that there was a subtraction for the baseball equipment. Even though he's trying to teach the kids how to be responsible with their money, how to be financially literate. Of course, we know that Megan or Tim, they're the ones that actually subtract the funds. They're the ones that dictated that the funds were going to be spent on the baseball supplies. Of course, assuming that the baseball supplies were not completely donated by the woeful Tim worshipers. Okay? But let's see how the rest of this experiment goes. Let's watch. Let's see.
A little faster. The baking soda.
Well, is it reserved when you take all the stuff out?
Yeah, when you dry it out or take all the moisture out. So we'll get the scale and we'll measure everything. Okay, so let's look next. Next, this is the Epsom salt. Okay.
I think the Epsom salt is gonna be dry.
Okay, let's see.
I see water at the bottom.
I know.
All right, next they get to the apple that was in the Epsom salt, and then they get to the apple that was in the table salt. Of course, Megan's the one that's grabbing the vials with the experimental apples in them. She's the one that's describing what's in the vial. She's the one emptying it out. She's the one giving the kids her first observations. Yes. She's the one that's poking and prodding and picking them up and mushing them even before the boys do. Yes. Okay, so she's the one that's, of course, she's putting words in the boys' mouths. Of course. Yeah, she's putting thoughts in the boys' heads. Yes. Okay, and don't we get enough of that when they're wandering around the farm? Don't we get enough of their thoughts being crafted for them? Okay, don't we get enough of them, their words being structured for them, their scripts being written for them? Don't we get enough of that? Yes. And so even in the homeschool room, yes, their thoughts are controlled. Of course, their expression is controlled. Their observations are controlled, and even their ability to handle the experiment, actually get in. Experiments are supposed to be hands-on. And we're not talking about hands-on for the instructor. We're not talking about hands-on for the teacher, yes? Okay, but why is it Megan? Why is Megan the one that's emptying out the vial? And why is Megan the first one to go through the salt and find the apple and decide whether it's squishy, mushy, molded? Yes? Why is Megan the one talking about, why is she the one screaming about the experiment? Why is she the one about saying, it smells funny or it smells funky? Why is Megan doing all this discovery? Why is all the excitement coming only from Megan? Okay? And so there's one answer, other than the fact that the camera is rolling. Yes? Other than that. Okay? The other answer for this is that Megan has no skills when it comes to teaching. Okay? Now, if she's supposedly taught some classes at the college, that's a different type of teaching. Yes? Okay? A lot of times at a college level, okay, you can just present the material. Okay, you're not looking for engagement from your students. Okay, the students do not have to be hands-on during college education. Yes, especially if you're teaching some philosophy type class or some sociology or whatever type of class you was teaching, literacy class or what have you. Yes, so that's a different type of teaching. Okay, but when you talk about teaching the youth, they need to be involved. Yes, okay, they need to be they need to have a stake in the discovery process. Okay, they need to be invested in what they're seeing. Yes, all right, and so for Megan to go in and strong arm this educational process, go in and strong arm this experiment, this measly one experiment that they get per week, for Megan to go in and bully them on their learning. Okay, for her to go in and hoard and shove the kids out of the way, and I'm in first, and I'm the one that's giggling, and I'm the one that's exciting, and I'm the one that's excited, etc., Megan. Utter failure in the teaching process, Megan. Okay. Now we know you're not going to start up with the boys again until November. Okay. These videos are from what? May. These videos from May. I guess Tim is saying they're from last week or what have you. Yes. But between now and November, Megan, you have plenty of time to study up and prepare yourself for actually teaching those boys. Yes. All right. And those boys are different skill, different educational levels. Why in the world should we even expect Noah's observations to be at any level equivalent to the observations that Timothy Jr. should have? Why are they fighting over their little apples? Yes, you couldn't spare separate experimentations for each of the boys. Why are they fighting over the little samples? One of the kids grabs it, and the other kid tries to take it out of his hand. One kid, no, I got it first. I'm going to smush it first and squish it first. And why are they fighting? We don't have enough apples to go around. We don't have enough vials. Your donors did not donate enough vials. You don't have enough Epsom salt. Not enough baking soda, not enough table salt. Okay, why are the kids fighting and fidgeting over a single experiment? Yes. Okay, at least when you did that failed, a root beer float? When you did that failed root beer float, at least the boys each had their own individual experimentation. They had their own samples, yes? They did their own experiments, yes? And as such, they could do their own observations. Now it's a single experiment with the three boys, yes? Boys ranging from what? Kindergarten up to what? 3rd or 4th grade? There's a single experiment, single sample. Okay? They're hearing your observations, and then they're going to go to some supposed observation sheet, and they're going to write down what they thought. But more importantly for you guys, what they heard. Show us more, Megan. Show us more.
Oh, why'd you pick up that? It's probably
is that mold?
Ew.
It does not smell good. It smells like it's molded. What is that?
Look, he's some love.
No. Go wash your hands. Yeah, that does not look good.
That didn't make it.
That definitely didn't make it.
Megan talks about the table salted apple being the one that looks the most preserved. Yes, of course the boys are listening. Tell us more, teacher. Tell us what we should be thinking. Yes, tell us what we should be learning. Tell us what we did learn, or more, in this case, what we did not learn. Yes, but even Megan is grabbing the samples. Yes, I think Junior had the sample in his hand. I know before that Noah had in his hand. He's like, "What is this?" Okay, and of course he's looking at the peel, the apple peel. Yes, the skin on the apple. And he's like, "What is this? What is this?" And, right, and then I guess Junior snatches the sample, the single sample from little Noah. He's making his observation, at a more mature level. Yes, okay. Noah's observation was, "What is this thing? What is this red stuff that looks like skin?" Okay. What is this red stuff that looks like an apple peel? Megan goes and she grabs a sample from Junior. Yes. And I'm like, oh, good gracious. So not only do the boys have to battle with each other during this experiment, yes, they also have to battle with their teacher. Okay. The one that seems to be the most enthusiastic about this experiment. They have to battle with her. The one that appears to be learning the most from this experiment. They have to battle with Megan. And like, no, okay, Mom, you take it, Mama. Yes, Mama, surely, Mama. Obviously, you're at the head of this class, Mama. You're at the head, yes. Obviously, in this class, Mama, you're the honor student, yes. And we're the ones just struggling to keep up. But show us more, Megan. Show us more.
We'll weigh him and we'll see.
Let's go watch our hands.
All right, so this is the table salt. So we're gonna have to see how the table salt did. We got control apple, baking soda, Epsom salt, now table salt.
Who's coming in the driveway?
Whoa.
That looks kind of like it might be preserved. Uh-oh. That looks preserved.
It's smushy a little bit. Let's see if I can knock all this stuff off of it. So it looks preserved, but it's still a little smushy.
It is a little smushy, but it seems like it looks the most preserved. Like just looking at it.
Not feeling it. What is that? Is there another apple?
I don't know, what is it? Okay, so y'all need to now record your observations about the apple.
Tim adds in the fact that Megan supposedly left her job teaching and / administering, or being in teaching / administration at the local college. Yes? Okay, and based upon what you admitted to us previously, obviously she was doing administration work, yes? As some type of administrative assistant or, I don't know, clerk of some sort, secretary of some sort, yes? And she was doing most of her job was in administration, yes? And I guess, you say she taught a little bit, yes? So shouldn't you lead with her with saying that my wife left her job in administration / teaching? Why did you say teaching first? Considering that she's done very little teaching, yes? Right? That's just coincidental that he led with that, yes? Okay, but he says that she left her job. Not that she was yanked from her job. Not that she was forced to leave that job to come home and tend to the boys, but she supposedly left that job in order to come home and teach her kids. Okay? And so based upon these kids going through 2 years of being homeschooled and Megan admitting that she has no idea what she's been doing for the past 2 years, Megan should have stayed at the college, yes? Okay, Megan? Hopefully Megan took a leave of absence. Megan, go back to the college tomorrow. Yes, tell them you want your job back. Okay, Megan? All right? Because this has been an utter failure at this point, Megan. All right? And so if you thought that you were leaving your job to teach your kids, you wasted 2 years. Okay? So you're going to have to accelerate your capabilities, Megan. Accelerate them. Or just go right back to the college. Oh, yeah? Or just continue work full-time as a farmhand. Yes, I'm sure Tim would not mind that at all. Working full-time as a farmhand and not distracting yourself with this homeschooling nonsense at this point. Okay? But show us more, Megan.
Which one, just based on looking at it, do you think it's like, look at this. Is it brown?
No.
It still got the white to it, right? Mm-hmm. It still got a red skin. Now look at this.
It's a redder skin.
It's a little bit browner.
Tim claims that all of his boys just took aptitude tests. Yes? And why is that in quotes? Is this some type of test that you guys conjured up? Is this some type of state evaluation? Is it some type of Mississippi evaluation? Okay, so is it an aptitude test or is it a true test of those boys' learning and progression to this point? And so now Tim claims, yes, and we know he's prone for exaggeration, yes, but we do hope that at least these claims are accurate. Okay, so we're pulling for your pastor in this case, yes? So he claims that all the boys, which would only be two of the other boys, so he says that 2 of the boys tested at the appropriate grade level. Okay, appropriate aptitude for their appropriate grade level. And of course, we don't know what that means, yes? Okay, we know that Noah at 5 years old, he should be in kindergarten. If Titus is 7, that will push him up to 2nd grade, yes? And if Junior is 6 now, that will push him up to 6th grade, yes? He should be going into 6th grade. Okay, now we haven't forgotten that maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Tim, he divulged to the YouTube world, the YouTube family, that Junior is in the 3rd grade, or he was in the 3rd grade, yes? And so he's saying, well, all the boys are at their appropriate grade level, except for Junior. He tested so well that he's able to skip 4th grade and go into 5th grade. Okay, so you're doubling down on the fact that you had a 5-year-old that was only in the 3rd grade. Okay, and somehow in a matter of a few weeks, he accelerated his knowledge, and now he can skip over the 4th grade and go into the 5th grade when he already should have been in the 5th grade in the first place. Yes. Okay, there's something to be proud of. Yes. Is that a major accomplishment? Okay, so that he scored well enough to be in the 5th grade, and so as such, he would only be only 1 year behind. What kind of nonsense? Okay, IAG principal, yes? Okay, you should be on the chopping block. Okay, who's evaluating you? Yes, who's evaluating you, Tim? Okay, we know you're leaning over Megan's shoulder, yes? We know you're breathing on Megan and breathing on the boys when they're in there trying to learn. You're yanking them from homeschooling to do that goofy vocational homeschooling, yes? Okay, but who's evaluating you, yes? Okay, when you deem that Tim going into the 5th grade is appropriate for a kid that's 11 years old now? Show us more.
But it's still the same size.
Look at the skin. Repair the skin.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lighter skin.
Yeah, it is lighter.
Yeah, but if you open it, it's probably still juice in there.
Yeah, it's probably got more moisture in it still than the other one.
And what is this?
Okay. So everybody dust off your hands. I want y'all to each go wash your hands one at a time, and then we'll record our observations about the apples, okay? Okay. I'll get the scale while y'all are recording your observations and washing your hands, okay?
All right, so Tim, with him being clueless, even though he scripted the experiment, even though it was rehearsed and what have you, he asked them to explain to them what they were doing during the experiment. Of course, the boys hightailed it out of the room. They were off to wash their hands. And Megan was more than eager to explain what they did during the experiment. Yes? Okay, and so that's one of the first markers of a failed experiment. Yes? Okay, if you have to ask the instructor or teacher what was done during the experiment, it's a failure. Okay, the boys should be able to explain what they did during the experiment from start to finish. Yes? The boys should be the ones that are talking about the beakers and the Epsom salt and whether it was 7 days and whether they're going to weigh it later, yes? If Megan is the only one that can articulate what was done during the experiment, what's going to be done to conclude the experiment, then it was an utter failure, yes? Okay? Megan's the only one with the excitement. She's the only one with the comprehension of the experiment. Okay? And so hopefully, some of you IAG family members, some of you Ready Tim Writers, hopefully you guys are learning something from this, yes? But asking a 44, 45-year-old woman, an adult woman, a college-educated woman, how a elementary school experiment was performed, and her being able to articulate what was performed and the steps during the experiment, there's nothing impressive about that. I'm sorry. But show us more.
Yes, man.
All right, homeschool teacher, can y'all talk to us about what you're doing?
Okay.
What all of this apple preservation methods?
It's a little bit crazy, huh? Mm-hmm. Well, we learned a little bit about some ancient preservation methods that the Egyptians used to do. And we did our own experiment to see if we could preserve apples. And basically preservation has to do with removing the moisture from something and therefore keeping it more like its natural state, or, from just decaying and getting mold and basically turning back to dirt. So we tested the apple. The experiment said to choose 3 different substances: baking soda, Epsom salt, and table salt. And then, of course, you have a control apple that you don't do anything to, that you compare. So we've done that, and it's actually been 7 days since we put the substance on the apple and put them in these little beakers. And so it's been last Monday was when we first started the experiment. So 7 days later now, we're coming back to see. Just first we wanted, with our eyes, see, okay, what looks preserved, what doesn't look preserved, and kind of just judge it based on that. But we also weigh each apple. Each apple weighed 3 grams. We cut a slice that weighed 3 grams when we started out. So we're also going to weigh the apple. And the one that has, the least amount of moisture and still looks like an apple and doesn't have mold and all this different stuff on it will be the one that's most preserved.
Sounds good. Sounds fun.
All right. Principal Tim he asked the boys to give one thing that they learned during the experiment. He goes to Titus first, and of course Titus is tongue-tied, or he's mum, or he's mute, however you want to put it. He's stumped. Okay, he can't articulate anything that he learned, not even just one thing that he learned during the experiment. Unfortunately, that's no surprise. He goes over to Timothy Jr., the oldest of the bunch, and Timothy Jr., at least with him, he can offer that, an educated guess is like a hypothesis. So at least he can offer that, yes? So he's able to regurgitate something that Megan already told him. And then when they shift over to little Noah is stumped, of course. No surprise. It's to be expected. He didn't have anything to offer, and I guess they cut I guess Tim edited out that part. He cut that part out. I guess they coached him on what they really wanted him to say, or something that he could say. Okay, this is what you could say. You could talk about things being preserved. You could talk about the Epsom salt, the baking soda. You could talk about the table salt or the control. You can talk about any of those, yes? So obviously they did a little bit of coaching for him, and then I guess he offered what he observed for the one that was the control sample. And then I guess eventually they came back around to Titus. But good gracious, are we going from a D- to an F+? Are we going straight to the F or the F- on this? Okay? We're going from bad to worse. Okay? We already knew we were in trouble when Megan was the only one excited and the only one digging around in the experimentation, the only one making observations. Okay? And she's the only one that could explain what was performed with the steps of the experiment. We knew we were in trouble, yes? But then when you ask kids for just one thing that they learned, one thing. Okay? And what they have, like 4 or 5 different beakers, 4 or 5 experimental subjects, 4 or 5 samples, and they were asked to explain just one thing that they learned. They could come up with barely nothing or barely anything. I'm sorry, Coach. Sorry. Okay? I'm starting to think, Coach, that this might be some form of punishment. Yes? You actually posting this to YouTube could actually be some form of punishment for those boys. Okay? All right? And of course, it could be some type of oppression for Megan. Yes? Like, okay, Megan, you're failing. You need to do better, Megan. I'm going to post it until you do better. Until we start seeing some better results, Megan, I'm going to show your handiwork or your lack thereof. I'm going to show your struggles. It's going to be out there front and center. Yes? The failure of 3 boys with a 4th one in waiting.
Fun, boss?
Yes.
What did you learn from this process? Just give us one thing that you learned. It could be the name of something. Go ahead.
I learned that.
All right, we'll come back to you. Tim, what you learn, bud?
And an educated guess is a hypothesis.
There you go. All right, we'll come back to you last, Titus. What you got to know? What you learned through this whole process?
I think the table salt was the best.
Okay, good.
All right, so eventually Tim is able to coax out of Titus one observation, I guess. I guess he gave us an observation. Or one thing he learned, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. But then he says, well, which one preserved the apple the best, between the salts and what have you? And he's kind of, bearing down on him. Which one? Which one? And then he had to remind him of what the salts were. Oh, the table salt, the Epsom salt, or the baking salt. Which one? Which one? Which one? Little Titus like, oh. Yes, and I guess eventually he offers the table salt. Yes. Then of course, my coach being who he is, he pans over at little Benjamin, and we are reminded. I think we saw him earlier, but we're reminded little Benjamin is also in the homeschool room. Yes. Okay. Homeschooling doesn't take place when there's just 3 boys present. Yes. Always has to be 4 boys present. Okay. Never does my coach offer to take little Benjamin off of Megan's hands. Never. Okay. And so even though the experimentation was performed for the 3 boys, the older boys, we know little Benjamin was somewhere in that room. Yes. And it just so happens that little Benjamin is doing his potty training. Yes. I'm not sure if he was potty training or if he was using the potty. All right. And Tim was kind enough to blur out little Benjamin in the past. For one reason or another, he was not so good with his blurring this time. Yes. And I know that most of us, I know that some of you woeful Tim worshipers are curious about how little Benjamin is progressing in his potty training. Yes. So curious that you want to see him sitting on that toilet, exposed to the world, exposed to all of his IAG family. Is that not punishment? Okay, what could little Benjamin have possibly have done to anger his dad? Yes, to get on his dad's bad side such that he's posting him on the toilet. Yes. But we see little Benjamin, and Tim claims that, he was covered up and he dropped the cover. And like, okay, Tim, you could just avoid using that footage. You could edit it right out, first of all. Okay. Secondly, you could just not film that part. Yes. Okay. You could film around little Benjamin. Yes, but we know you want to capture it. But good gracious, I can't take no more. I can't take no more.
All right, Tyler, we're coming back to you. What did you learn?
I didn't know that the control apple was gonna work the best with nothing in it. I thought it was gonna be rotten.
Okay. So the control apple, explain to me what that is.
The control apple is the apple we don't put anything in, but we only put the apple inside the beaker.
Okay, cool.
But we put on a closed top so it might got preserved by doing that.
Okay, cool.
That's what it like.
So y'all did one apple with no preservative in there, and then y'all did the other apple with like table salt. One had Epsom salt. Was there anything else that y'all used to preserve?
Yep, baking soda.
Baking soda. And which one preserved the apple the best within the salts? I know you said the control apple with nothing in there seemed like it did the best with just having the air sealed off. But which salt mixture preserved it the best in your opinion, in your professional opinion, sir? Since you're a scientist in homeschool doing these science experiments. Between the table salt, the baking soda, and the Epsom salt, which one preserved it the best?
Table salt.
The table salt? Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, Benjamin, I thought you were covered. You dropped the thing, so I was like...
He dropped his modesty cloth. He
Exactly.
put his modesty cloth on.
All right, Benjamin, what about you, bud? What you over here doing? What you learned in homeschool?
That's it for my reaction to that recent IAG Farms trailer where they talk about how Megan was never a college professor and how since then she's been trying to be a homeschool teacher. She admitted that she's failing at that. So when you guys go in the comments, don't be talking about, Captain, how do we know she's failing? She admitted that she was failing. Okay, we've seen the results over the course of months, over the course of years now, at least a couple of years now. We've seen the results. So we knew she was failing. Finally, she admitted that she was failing. Yes? Okay? But that's it for my reaction to that recent homeschool update, aptitude test result, failed experiment debacle. That's it. Okay? Please like, comment, and subscribe. Chop it up in the comments. I want to shoot some love out to my current subscribers. Thank you for showing me that ultimate YouTube love. I do appreciate it. For those viewers that have not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing so that we can continue to shine that light. Until next time.